All right. My name is Lucas Rodriguez. Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for joining the third part of our three-part Unified Classroom Personalized Learning Cloud series. Very excited to wrap this up and show you kind of in full circle everything that PowerSchool has to offer when it comes to the classroom. So once again, I'm the Senior Inside Classroom Specialist for the Great Lakes region. I work with a team that covers the region. I specialize in the classroom products, Schoology, Performance Matters, and curriculum instruction. With me today, I'm very excited to have Shannon Thompson. Shannon is one of our great solution sales directors. She will be the one presenting Performance Matters for us. And as we walk through this, again, I want to remind everybody, you can throw questions into the chat if you'd like. At the very end, we'll allow some time for questions too as well. So when we really take a step back at this, we have looked at it from a full circle, really, and that's because teaching is really a never-ending circle. So we plan with curriculum instruction, and we set up our curriculum maps and our lesson plans. We can integrate those lesson plans directly into Schoology, and then that becomes your engaging part. So now that's how do we engage with the students? How do we take all these platforms that we use within the district, within the school, IEB like Brain Pop, Quizlet, Discovery Education, McGraw-Hill, Turnitin, stuff like that. I want to use that all in one area, not have it separated, combined with like the student information system, other resources like Google and Microsoft. And that's really where Schoology comes in. Now from Schoology, we jump over into more of the monitoring side, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. And that's through Performance Matters assessment and advanced reporting. So from Performance Matters standpoint, you're looking at two sides. We have the assessments, item banks, and we'll talk about that, pre-built item banks based off of your state that are going to be aligned to state standards as well as national ones. So your NGSS, your Common Core, we have those available too. From there, you can deliver out your assessments directly within Schoology if you have that Schoology integration, or you can do it through Performance Matters. Your teachers can get real-time feedback. They're not having to wait months or weeks like you would for some state assessments. You can get real-time feedback, see those item analysis, and see how those students are progressing throughout either a standard or a comprehension or a learning objective. Again, overview of the whole entire unified classroom, focusing today on that Performance Matters. I'd just like to show that circle. Through Performance Matters, I mentioned you'll have the real-time adjustments, being able to see those students' grades and how they're progressing, as well as supporting tools for those assessments. You also have progress monitoring, so you can combine your data with data that you're pulling in from the student information system, i.e. if you want to bring in attendance next to your state standards or next to your local assessments, you can have that all in one spot. And then you can make adjustments off of that. And then the biggest thing, now going full circle, those adjustments then circle back into curriculum instruction with the planning side, edit those maps accordingly, edit those lesson plans. If you need to readdress a certain standard because the kids weren't picking it up, that can all be done in real time, quickly, and then you go back through that cycle. That's enough for me. I want to show this because I get excited about Performance Matters. I like data, and I think this is a great solution. So we'll just dive right in. I'll kick it over to Shannon. Shannon's going to start from the beginning, kind of do a quick refresher, and then we'll go into Performance Matters.
Well, thank you, Lucas, and thank you guys for joining today. I greatly appreciate your time. Before I jump into Performance Matters, I did kind of want to take a step back and say, okay, where have we been the past couple of weeks with Lucas in this webinar series? And so where we started a couple of weeks ago was with that curriculum and instruction solution. If you guys joined that call, Adam walked us through that curriculum instruction solution set. And just as a reminder, with curriculum instruction, it's a two-part platform that allows a district to build out those curriculum maps. And then in addition to that, you can also have that lesson planning solution for your teachers as well. So it really allows you to have that one-stop shop for teachers to be able to go in, access those curriculum maps, use those resources you've associated with the curriculum map, and then also from the district and administrative level, being able to monitor how lessons are being delivered within your district and what resources are being used from those curriculum maps. And so I did want to showcase very quickly kind of the connection with Performance Matters here, because one of the one of the takeaways for everyone here that I hope you walk away with today is seeing where we're going with these solutions, talking about that personalized cloud for the classroom solution and how these all kind of fit together and kind of complete that puzzle, if you will. And so you can see here on my screen, I'm in a curriculum map right now. I just wanted to showcase very quickly that with Performance Matters, one of the things you can do is you can link in an assessment within curriculum and instruction. So as you're building those curriculum maps, if you're in a district that you're also building out district level assessments, you could put that in as an assessment evidence within your curriculum map so that teachers, when they're building those lesson plans, can pull those assessments straight into their lesson plans. And then 2 weeks ago, last week, you met with Zach, and Zach went through the Schoology platform, showcasing how this learning management system can be a tool for both your teachers and your students. One of the things we'll showcase today is that integration with Performance Matters. So one of the things you're able to do when you use Schoology and Performance Matters together is you're able to keep your students within that Schoology platform. They're living in that learning management system. We want to keep them there. And so one of the nice pieces with Performance Matters is that your teachers can build out that assessment in Performance Matters, come into Schoology, and add that Performance Matters assessment straight into their course within Schoology. And then for the students, they can come in and they're able to then take a Performance Matters assessment within the Schoology platform. So they're staying in that one platform and not having to go through those steps to log into another platform. So it really centralizes everything into this personalized cloud. So my goal today really is to showcase Performance Matters. I've had a lot of experience with our assessment solutions. I've been with PowerSchool for about 12 years now, and my focus really has been on the solution, the assessment solution. So I'm excited today to kind of showcase what Performance Matters can do for your district. Now, when we look at Performance Matters, one of the things I want to do today is I want to look at this through 3 different lenses. We'll take a look at the platform through the teacher lens, get an idea of what their experience looks like. We'll step back for a moment, take a look at the platform from the student perspective, because we know that our students will be the largest group of users in your district within the platform. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll walk through some of the reporting capabilities using that administrator lens. So with no further delay, let me go ahead and go through the platform. And as you have questions, feel free to throw those in chat. And Lucas, feel free to stop me at some point if we have a question that's kind of in the moment and we need to stop and address that.
Will do. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. So again, I'm in the platform currently as a teacher. So I'm Heather Archer right now in Performance Matters. And when the teacher logs into the platform, they're immediately presented with their students. And this is the information that's coming over from your student information system. So we're able to pull in students and courses, and that's what your teacher is associated with in the platform. So at a glance, what we see right off the bat, we see all of our students. We get a little bit of information right off the bat. We can see which of our students are identified as a student with a disability. We can see which ones have an early warning indicator in place. And we're also able to see how they're performing on the standards that we've assessed so far in Performance Matters, kind of that little heat map. And we can dig into any of these these cards and go straight into the student detail and get more granular information on those students. And we'll look at that here in just a little bit. But as a teacher coming in, if I quickly want to dig into my 4 students that are identified as students with disabilities, I can quickly pull those students up and then drill into any of those individual student detail cards. Additionally, I can come in, I can select a recent test that I've delivered and get an at-a-glance view of student performance on that particular assessment, truly focusing in on how did we perform on those standards that were assessed. Now from here, typically for your teachers, when they're coming into the platform, one of the first things they're going to want to do is they're going to want to build a test. So let's go through that process. Probably helps if I go to the right page. So as I'm coming into the platform, I'm coming in to create a brand new test. And you'll see that I'm presented with pretty much a blank slate here. And so what I'm able to do is to go through and structure over on the left-hand side of the page the properties of this particular assessment. But what I'm more focused on as a teacher is coming in and adding items right off the bat. Now, I do want to call out that we do have our own PowerSchool item bank that has items aligned to the 4 core subjects. We also partner with KDS, Certica, Horizon to offer their content as well. So you have a lot of different options for third-party item bank solutions. And then you also have the capability of creating your own content in the platform as well. Now, when a teacher is creating an assessment or you have a test creator, they have a couple of different options for adding items to an assessment. You'll notice in the top left, I'm in this keywords page, and that it's just that I can use a keyword. So I'm going to use the keyword parallel. And as I put in that keyword, what it's doing is it's filtering all of those items to search for any items that have that keyword associated with it. And so that's a pretty broad search, but what I can do from here is I can then use my filters over on the left to really narrow down to the item bank I want to use, grade level, standard, or even the item type I want to use. So then once I get those filters in place, I can come through and add a couple of items from that keyword search. Another option, and my personal favorite, is the standard search. I prefer to be able to go in, search for my standards, and then look at the items that I have to pull from for those standards. So now you'll notice on my page, the right-hand side of the screen has changed. Now we're seeing standards instead of individual items. So I'll use that same concept of a keyword search. So I can do a keyword search in my standards as well. So maybe if I don't know that specific standard code, but I know the content of that standard, I could do a keyword search. And you'll notice on screen, it's pulled up several different standards that I can choose from. Once I identify the standard I want to assess, I can then drill into this box that has the total number of items that are tied to that standard. And then I can begin to review those items. Still have those same filtering options in place over on the left. So if I want to narrow it down to a particular bank, grade level, or item type, I can do that as well. Then drill into that window that will then allow me to preview all of those items. The other option I have is to add items randomly. So I can type in the number I want into that box. It tells me I'm adding those number of items, and those will get automatically added to the assessment. The third option really speaks to, I think it speaks to our English teachers, our ELA folks. Because the resources tab, what that allows teachers to do, it allows them to find a resource. And this could be a passage, it could be a map, it could be a graphic that we've tied multiple items to. And so I think this works really well for our ELA teachers because they can come in, locate the passages they want to use, then use those filters on the left to narrow down to those standards that they need to assess, and then begin to pull items in a similar way we did with our standards. So those are the 3 primary ways we can add items to the assessment. Once we do that, we can go back in and continue editing that test that we've just started to build. So over on the left, again, I can build out my assessment title. I'll assign it to an assessment category, and those categories are something that are going to be unique to your district, so you'll be able to create those during that implementation process. Course types, so the courses that come over from your student information system will get tied to a course within Performance Matters. And this is really just kind of helping frame and helping to organize everything within the platform. And then you have the ability to associate it to your grade levels. The piece I do want to call out here is that performance band. So you'll notice this color for performance band. Performance bands get applied to every single assessment that's delivered within the platform. And what I love about this is the color. So you can really start to get your teachers to start to think about colors and associating a color with an action. So if I see red, that means I need to take an immediate action. I need to focus in on those students. And we'll see those colors carry over into the reporting for Performance Matters. Nice thing about the performance bands, you'll create one default for your district, but you're not limited. You can create multiple performance bands that might be unique to your subject area or maybe your grade levels. And then the last piece I'll showcase here is your test format. You do have the capability to create a multi-section test. You can have a timed test. So if you want to have a test that's 15 minutes long, you can enable that, set that time. And for your students, when they start taking that test, it initiates that countdown. And then all of your tools that are available. And the great thing about the tools that you see here on screen is they can be set at the test level, or we can set them at the student level. I think that's one of the great features about this platform is the ability to establish student accommodations. So if you have a student that needs that read aloud accommodation for every test, you can set that on the student profile, or you can set it at that test level for all of your students. So a lot of options there when you're creating your test. So Lucas, I'll pause for just a moment just to make sure, see if we've had any questions come in so far.
No questions yet, but I always like to call out, and I forget, I swear the number always changes. How many different type of questions can we do? 17, 16, what is it now?
There are 16 item types. Great
16.
call out there. And we're getting ready to see some of those here in just a second. So
Perfect.
great call out.
Yeah,
So
not
now
just your ABC type.
Right.
You get a lot of different options there.
Right. So I do want to now kind of shift gears a little bit. We've looked at how a teacher can create an assessment within the platform. So I'm going to take off that teacher lens for a moment, and let's put on that student lens. And what I'll do here is I'll showcase some of those different item types that Lucas brought up. We do have 16 different item types. 3 of those are what we call human scoreable. The rest are machine scored. And what we mean by that human scoreable is there is a rubric associated with it. The teacher's able to come back into the platform, use that rubric to apply a score. So I'm now in the test as a student. And so when a student comes into the test, they'll see the test they need to take, click on it, and then they're presented with any of the tools that have been enabled at that test level, or if they have those as student accommodations, they'll see the tools that are available to them. When they click start, they're taken directly into the test. And a couple of things I'll call out here is the student can navigate to any item on the test from this drop down in the top left. If we have the text-to-speech tool enabled, they'll see that toolbar in the top right, and I'll showcase this one in a little bit. And then any of the tools that they have available to them are going to be available in that tool drop down. So now looking at this item that we have available to us on screen, great example of a side-by-side item where we have a passage on the left, and then the student is interacting with the item on the right. Here's our matching interaction where the student's able to come through. This is just an example of a true-false interaction where they're able to interact, look at that image or the graph, and then respond to that matching interaction. We have the graphing capability. I'm not a math student. I was a social studies teacher, so I'm not going to try and look too hard at this one, but you get the concept there. We do have that graphing capability. I'll also call out that we do have 3 different calculators that you can enable for a test. We have the 4-function calculator, which I'm showing here. We have a scientific calculator and a graphing calculator. We've partnered with Desmos to be able to provide those calculators within the platform. Next item type, this one's just showcasing how you can embed videos. Student could watch the video, and here's one of our human scoreable interactions where it's called extended text, where they're typing out their short answer response or essay form response. Next item type allows the students to place items in a particular order. In this particular example, it's a recipe. I also like to showcase the text-to-speech tool here. I forgot to share my sound, but I think you're going to be able to hear this. So I'm going to try and play that first sentence through our text-to-speech reader so you can get a concept of how that works.
Mix the sugar, milk, butter, and cocoa in the medium-sized pan.
So just an idea of what that looks like from the student perspective. The student has the capability to speed that text-to-speech reader up or slow it down. Another option they have, if it's enabled, is to have access to a dictionary. So if there's a word they come across they don't understand, they can highlight that and then look it up, and they get that definition. So again, all tools you can enable at that test creation level or enable it for students that need that accommodation. Next item type is kind of that concept of a drag and drop where they have options to drag onto a particular area on screen. This one is an example where they're reading through a passage and then responding to the item. Love this one, especially for our younger students. This is a draw interaction. So you can see in this particular example, students are being asked to respond to the image. They can come through, pick a color crayon, and then interact with that drawing interaction. This is another example of a human scoreable item where the teacher would have a rubric to go back in and score the student work. And the last one I'll showcase within our student experience is the upload interaction. I always like to showcase this one because I really think this starts to open up the door for us to think about different ways we can assess our students, really starting to think about that performance-based or authentic type of assessment. The upload interaction allows your students to upload their work, whether it's a video, an audio file, say a PowerPoint or a Word document, but it's work they've created outside of the platform. They will come in, they will find that piece of work on their device, load it into this item interaction, and then it gets downloaded for the teacher. So the teacher is able to come back in, pull up that rubric, download that student work, and begin scoring it. So a lot of different capabilities, I think, with that upload interaction. So that's the student experience within the platform. And sometimes I get some questions here, but I don't think we have any so far, do we yet, Lucas?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Shannon.
So now popping back over into Performance Matters as the teacher. And so what we've done so far is we've kind of looked through a simple process of creating a test. We've looked at the test from the student perspective. And what's that next natural step? Let's still look at the data that's available for that assessment. So as soon as students start to submit tests, teachers get immediate results back. And so they're able to come into the platform into an area called student item analysis and pull up that assessment to begin to look at that data. And so they'll come in, they'll be presented with a list of assessments that they've delivered within the platform. They'll select the one they want to look at. And this top table area should look familiar because that's where we could get that at a glance view on the teacher dashboard. So we can quickly drill into, as a whole, as my whole entire student population, how did we do on the standards that were assessed? And I can quickly drill into any of those standards. So I can, right off the bat for me personally, I see that second standard, I have several students that did not perform well. So I know I'm going to have to dig into that, but I'm not quite ready yet. Then I get this nice comparison over on the right, especially for those district level assessments. I can see how my students are performing against other students in the building and in the district. And then as I go further down, I can then start to dig into the individual student results. So I'm presented with all of my students that took the assessment. For every single student, I see their overall score, their percentage score, points earned out of points possible, and then I can drill into individual responses on that test. If I want to dig into any of those questions, I can click on that cell and it opens up that item for me to see the item, what the correct answer was, and how the student responded to that item. We also have a play button next to every single student score that allows me to click on it and see all of the questions for that student and how they interacted with each of those questions. Additionally, we have the play button for any question we can look at and look at the contents of the question. We get an overall percentage score for the questions. So this is where I like to dig in and see, okay, I've got some questions where we didn't perform very well. And I can come in and look at my item distribution and I can see, all right, how did my students interact as a whole with this particular item? And we see that breakdown. We see for this particular item, most of my students did answer it correctly. I still had a large percentage of students that chose the same wrong answer. So really starting to think about how can I go back and reteach certain concepts. I have the option, if you're a PowerSchool SIS customer, you can export this out to your gradebook. So you can put in here, where is it going in PowerTeacher Pro, submit that out, and the grades will appear in PowerTeacher Pro. So no more duplicating that work. We can also export this data out. And what I like about the export functionality is that it will retain the color swatching. And the colors that we're seeing here, if you've put the pieces of the puzzle together, these are the colors associated with that performance band that was assigned to this particular test. So now as I come back up to the top and I'm looking at this table, by default, it's going to show you how we performed on our standards, but we can toggle through if I want to look at depth of knowledge, taxonomy, because your third-party items will all be tied to that information, or the question types. If we were looking to see how are our students responding to certain types of questions, we can get that data as well. And then from here, we can start to dig in even further. So if I know that this second standard is one I really need to dig into, I'm first going to click on just those items. And so now my report changes just to reflect those items from that standard. If I want to take it a step further and really just zone in on those 9 students that did not perform well, I can click on that piece of the bar, and it now reflects just those students on my list. So from here, I can really dig into the individual students, start to think about how can I work with each of these individual students to help them overcome that obstacle with that particular standard. Here is also where I can start to dig into the individual student detail. So you'll notice that each of these students are hyperlinked. That hyperlink lets me know I can click on that student name and I can go straight into their student detail card. So earlier when we were on my dashboard, we had little index cards. If I clicked on any of those students, it's going to take me to the same student detail page. And this is where I can really start to dig into information on an individual student. I'm presented initially with a lot of information that's going to come over from your student information system. You can also dig in to test results. We have your common assessments that are being delivered here in the Performance Matters platform. It showcases your student score, how they performed against the class, the school, and the district. We can load state test scores into the platform for you, so you're able to pull up that data as well, and you can go back several years with this data. And then third-party data. This is one of the things I love about Performance Matters. It goes beyond just those common assessments you're delivering in the platform and really allows you to start to look at a student more holistically. How are they doing on all the different types of assessments they may be presented with in a given school year? And then being able to go back in time and pull that data as well. We also have a standards heat map, and I think Lucas had a slide earlier that showcased this. We can see in this particular example, what it does is it breaks down the course type. So I can see for algebra, how Daryl is performing on each of the standards he's been assessed on so far this year. That blue lets me know he's performing really well. That red lets me know these are areas of weakness. And I can click on any standard and get a comparison of how that student is performing against the rest of the district. The test accommodations tab, I want to cover that as well, because I mentioned earlier, when you're creating the test, you can set your test tools at the test level, but we also have that capability to set it at a student level. So if you have students that need that read aloud accommodation, you can have it set for the student. And no matter what tool you put in place at that test level, if that student needs that text-to-speech tool, it's going to be enabled for them, even though it may not be for the rest of the class. So a great option here. You have a couple of different options here. You can do it manually in the platform, but we also have the process where you can upload a file with those student accommodations and get that automated in the platform. So that is kind of where the teacher, I'm going to start to take off that teacher lens. So we've looked at that test creation. We've looked at the student taking the test, and we've looked at a teacher absorbing that data from that test and then jumping in to look at data for an individual student. So now what I want to do is switch gears and talk about, first thing I want to talk about is observational assessments, a different type of assessment, but I'm going to put on that administrator cap. So let me pop over into Holly Wright, who is our district level administrator. And I want to talk to you first about another type of assessment that we offer in Performance Matters, and it's called observational assessments. So what I've showcased so far are those student assessments where they're taking that assessment online. We do have the capability to do paper pencil as well. Then our third type of assessment is called observational. And this was initially designed to really focus in on our early learners, our kindergartners, our first graders, where they're not quite ready to sit down at a computer and begin taking an assessment, but teachers are observing them and they need to capture that data. So really start to think about, where can we use this? We see districts using this, of course, in those early grade levels for early literacy. We see this used at the high school level for our fine arts programs, for CTE. So a lot of different options here. Capstone projects, I've seen that as well. And so essentially a concept here is that the teacher can come in and they will have an observational assessment on whether it's on their device, any type of a device they have. They're observing the student doing something and they're able to come in and capture that score. And you'll notice that as I typed in that score, I'm immediately being presented back with a color association. So I'm able to plug in data and get an overall color swatching that's available to me as well, that I can then pull up in Baseball Card, and I can pull these measures up individually or pull them in together into that Baseball Card report. So I did want to showcase that really quickly. And Lucas, I know we have a great one-page kind of article on observational assessments that would be great for this group to review if they're interested.
Yeah, I'll definitely, and I'll include that in the follow-up when I send that over.
Perfect.
Thanks for calling that out, Shannon.
So the next area I'm going to go into is an area called baseball card. So when we talk about our administrator cap, we want to think about looking at our students more holistically. How are we doing as a district? How are we doing as a school within the assessment world? And so I'm going into an area of the platform called baseball card. And I'm going to zoom in over on the left so you can see this a little bit better. And this is where we can pull in multiple sets of data. So you can see I've got state test results, I've got third-party results. This common assessments folder is where any of our assessments that are delivered within the platform are going to live. And so what we're able to do here is to begin to build a report with all of that different data. So I'm going to focus in on my state test results and pull up a couple of years worth of data. So I'm pulling up a math state assessment score from 2 years ago and algebra scores from last year. And as I'm clicking into that data, you can see I'm immediately presented with results over on the right-hand side. And now I can start to work with that right-hand side of the screen. So essentially, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of any of those empty scores where the students didn't take those assessments. And I'm narrowing down my list. So as a district administrator, I have 12,000 students in my district. I've just created a report that's narrowed that down to 1,200 students that took a Math 8 state test 2 years ago and Algebra 1 last year. That's the scenario I'm playing out here. And now from here, I can begin to work with this report even more, because maybe my focus right now is I want to see those students that performed well 2 years ago, but they've started to slip in the past couple of years. So they slipped last year on their performance, and maybe we're targeting them for something this year. So now what I can do is I can start to work with those color swatches. And so I'm removing those bottom 3 performance bands for that first column, because I want to see those students that performed really well 2 years ago, but then I want to see those students that slipped last year. When I apply that swatching, now I've narrowed my list down to 300 students, just over 300 students that performed well 2 years ago, but began to slip last year. And so now I can take it a step further and begin to pull in additional data. So now what I want to do is, I know this school year as a district, we're focused on our absenteeism. And so now I want to focus on those students that have a high number of absences so far this year. So I can come into my early warning indicators that I've set up in the platform, pull in those students that have 5 or more absences. Again, remove those empty cells. Now I'm down to 100 students. So here are 100 students in my district that I want my teachers to focus in on. These are students that are slipping on their state performance. There is an absenteeism issue this year. Let's get them the help that they need. And so from here, probably the feature I love the most about Baseball Card is this ability to share out the report. And you can do this in multiple reports within the platform. Click on Share Report. I have this URL. I can take this URL, send it out in an email to my staff. And then as a teacher, I'm going to switch gears here for just a second. If I come in and click on that link, I'm now taken into Baseball Card, and it's going to pull up just the students that I'm associated with. So I came back in as a teacher. Now I'm just seeing, of those 100 students that were on the district administrator report, I'm seeing my 4 students. And so now I can take action. I know that the district were focused on this year. I need to start to work with these 4 students. And I'm going to give you guys a little teaser today. We do have a new feature coming out this summer. We're getting ready to put this into beta, called My Student Groups. So within Performance Matters by this summer, what you're going to have the capability to do is, when some of these reports are generated, teachers will see this option to take those students and create a group. So here's this scenario where I have 4 students that are beginning to slip on their state scores. There's also an issue with their absenteeism. And so I want to start to focus in on them. So I can create this group, name it. I can add additional students as I need to, remove students as I need to, establish a time frame for when I want to focus in on this group, create that. And then moving forward, I can come into different areas of the platform and pull up that student group and just focus in on those students and start to pull in multiple sets of data to see, are we seeing progress with the work I've done with these students? So again, that's just a teaser. That's not available yet. It will be by this summer, but definitely getting you excited to think about what we're doing there. My student groups will be available first in Performance Matters, but the concept is we're bringing it to the cloud. So that means it's going to be available in Schoology, where you could pull up the student group in Schoology and be able to send out resources to your students there. It's also going to appear in your student information system as well. So lots of different capabilities with that new feature coming out this summer. All right, any questions so far? I don't think we do, Lucas. I think we're good.
Yeah, nothing so far, Shannon. That was my first time seeing student groups live, so that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting stuff. So
Yeah,
I read about it, I heard about it, but seeing it live, it's going to be great. So
yeah, it's
thanks for showing
awesome.
that.
The next report I want to show you guys is called Scoreboard. Now, I don't know about you guys, but let me go back into my district level administrator first. When I first started learning about Performance Matters and started using the assessment platform, I, for some reason, got caught up in the terminology baseball card and scoreboard. And so really, we think about softball, baseball. When you talk about a baseball card, you're talking about looking at results for an individual player. So if I hand you a baseball card, that's information on an individual player for a team. Scoreboard, when we look up at the scoreboard, what are we doing? Well, we're looking to see how our team is performing. So that's the concept behind scoreboard. It just flips a baseball card and lets us see from the team level first. So as we drill in here a little bit, I'm not seeing individual students at this point. I'm seeing my district and my schools. And so what I can do then is I can come in, I can pull in the same data that I did earlier. I'm just going to do my Algebra 1 assessment. And it's the other call out I'll make here is that instead of seeing just an empty cell, I can add the same test score multiple times, because it may be that I want to see different student groups comparatively. Maybe I want to see how my different subgroups are comparing to one another and against the student population as a whole. So I can come in here and I can add in my different ethnic groups. And so once I click that, I now have a report with one single data point, that test score, but I'm looking at it from multiple different views on how each of these different student groups are performing. So I can see African American, American Indian, how they're performing on those assessments. From here, a lot of the same capabilities that I have in baseball card, and that I can pull multiple pieces of data together. I can also drill into the individual school. I can come into an individual teacher and into an individual class. Got a little scroll happy there. As I come in, then I'm seeing my individual students. So we do have that capability still to drill down to that individual student level in Scoreboard as well. So it's pretty much the same functionality as baseball card. You also have that capability to share out that URL. So if you've built out a report, you want to make sure it gets in the hands of your staff, you can send that out. To click on it, they're only going to be presented with the students that they have access to. So a secure way to make sure you're getting data in the hands of your teachers. And the last report I'm going to showcase today is going to be comparative results. Personally, I love the visuals that this report gives us, because what this allows us to do, it allows us to compare different pieces of information. And so what I can do here is I can come in, pull in a single assessment or pull in multiple assessments. And over on the right-hand side, what it shows me is it shows me for those assessments, how are the students performing on those standards? And so I've pulled up a single assessment, but I can come back in and I can say, all right, I want to see our common formative assessments from first semester and the one we did mid-year. And it's taking all of those standards and letting me see how are we performing as a district. And that performance band that's associated with that test or those tests are kind of behind our performance. So I can see which standards I'm performing really well on as a district. Where do we need some work? And then I can start to pull in the comparisons. So maybe I want to look at my high schools and how they're comparing to one another. So you can see here as I pulled in 2 high schools, now I'm getting their results for each of those standards from those assessments. I can take it a step further from that district administrator level and look at teachers. So if I wanted to look at a couple of teachers and how they're doing, I'm now pulling in that teacher data. So really, this allows you as a district administrator or even a school administrator looking at their teachers to see where in our district or where in our school are we performing really well, and how can we use that school or those set of teachers to then share what they're doing in their classrooms or in their buildings out to the entire district or to their entire building so that we can work to improve that performance elsewhere. So love this visual, but I can also dig into my individual students that are associated with those results that I've built out. And I can also look at my student groups. So if I want to come in here and look at my different ethnicities and how they're performing on each standard, I have that visual as well. A lot of the schools that I've worked with, what they'll do is they'll do this comparison, and they may not pull in individual teachers, but maybe they'll pull in their schools, and they'll have that conversation with their teachers. Like, here's how we're doing. What do we need to do to improve on? Where are we excelling? And really having that nice visual in front of them. So Lucas, I've definitely given us quite a bit of time here. Anything else you think we want to showcase today for Performance Matters?
No, I mean, Shannon, I think you covered everything that I was excited to see. We looked at the baseball card report, the scoreboard, comparative results. Those are the big data ones that I like to show, and then how easy it is to show those, or to create those item banks, and the really, I think, unlimited amount of content that we have available. As Shannon mentioned earlier, PowerSchool does have its own item banks, about 100,000, I think, give or take questions. We're constantly adding to that, updating that. If standards change, we have teams that support that for those states. And we also work with other companies too as well. So you can purchase multiple item banks if you'd like, or you can just use one. What I really like about the PowerSchool one is you can download those questions and then edit them too. Unlike the other vendors, that's their item banks, they created those. We can't edit those. Still great content, but just being able to have that flexibility, I think is very important at that level. Outside of that, really, I think we covered everything. Circling back to the beginning with regards to what we refer to as PIMA, really this is the adjusting phase, and hopefully you saw multiple times throughout this how you can adjust. Obviously, you still have some type of engagement too as well. So I know I mentioned a lot of the engagement comes in through Schoology, but with assessments, obviously you can engage there too. You can deliver those through Schoology or just Performance Matters if you don't have the two together. Performance Matters is going to work with a lot of student information systems. Every product that we've actually showed over this 3-part series is what we refer to as SIS agnostic. So it doesn't require you to have PowerSchool SIS. Obviously, there are going to be some better integrations. We've built out more integrations with our own student information system because it is all under one umbrella, but you can use other student information systems. You don't have to just use PowerSchools on that. So I do like to call that out. And then the other thing is, when we were going through the scoreboard card and the baseball card report, you might have more data or you might have less. This is our demo site. We try to incorporate, as many options as we can. We understand that, not every district is always doing STAR, NWA, iReady. They're not doing all of them. Usually they're picking and choosing a few. And then you have your own local assessments too. I think from there that's really it. Shannon, anything else you wanted to add, and we can try to wrap it up early for everybody? And
yeah, I'll just take a real quick moment here. One of the things I did not do when I showcased the test experience for a student, I didn't showcase that in Schoology. So for any of you that are looking at Schoology or you're already using Schoology, so again, remember, teachers can build an assessment in Performance Matters. They can add that to their course in Schoology. And then for your students, they're going to stay within that Schoology platform and they're taken straight into that test. This format that I'm showing on screen should look familiar because it's that Performance Matters platform, but it's embedded within Schoology. So it really allows for your students to stay in that platform and take an assessment within that platform where they're already living day to day, with those courses that they're in. So just wanted to showcase that real quick too.
Yeah, awesome. And those results go into the Schoology gradebook, correct?
Correct, they do.
Yeah.
So that's great call out there. So for Performance Matters, if you're just using Performance Matters and you have PowerSchool SIS, you can push grades directly from Performance Matters. But our recommendation is if you're using both Performance Matters and Schoology, is to push that test out to Schoology, get those scores into your Schoology gradebook, and then push it over to your student information system from there.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then, one thing we will call out is on the top right-hand corner right there, there is those little 9 boxes. That is the app switcher. So for your teachers that want to toggle between Performance Matters and Schoology as they're building out their content, it's very easy for them to do so, or even Power Teacher Pro if they have the SIS, or your administrators, or any products. As you can see, we have all of them on there. That's really role-based. So that's something we want to call out. And then We have some new tools coming out later this year with regards to aligned standards. So standards across all PowerSchool products can be aligned. So that's something that's exciting. And then Unified Home, or the new login that will be coming out later this year too as well, just to make it easier on your families and students that, if you have Schoology and PowerSchool Assist, they have one login for that. So just a few tools that we're working on that we're excited on. You guys will get information as that comes out throughout the year too. So
and Lucas, I'll say if anybody's interested in more of a deep dive with Performance Matters or any of these products they've seen over the past few weeks, like just let us know. We're willing to sit down with you and your team and your district and really kind of work through each of these products that you may be interested in.
Yeah, great call out, Shannon. We understand that every district is different, every school is different in their needs. So we kind of do an overview, but if we want to sit down and do something specific for your organization, just let me know and I'm more than happy to get that scheduled. So we have about 13 minutes left. I appreciate everybody. I will get this recording over to you today, along with some of the resources that Shannon mentioned. And if you have any questions on anything from this series or anything else classroom related, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help. So thank you,
Thanks,
Shannon.
everyone. Thank you.